Welcome to the Social Engineer Podcast. This is the Security Awareness Series, episode 279, if you can believe that. I'm Chris Hadnacki, CEO and founder of Social Engineer, the Innocent Lives Foundation, and the Institute for Social Engineering. And this podcast has been around since 2009. Just like every other episode, our sponsor is our company. So if you're interested in social engineering services, which I'm sure you are, because that is the number one way everyone's getting hacked today. And we've been talking a lot about smishing, SMS phishing. I don't know about you, but no matter where you are, it seems like that has gone through the roof. My spam inbox is filled every day with the amount of SMS attacks that I get. So if you're like me and your employees are like me and getting those attacks, you're wondering what you can do, reach out to us. We can talk about our managed smishing programs that help educate your employees on how to report these things properly. Just reach out. We can make an appointment and set up with Jason, and we can talk to you about it. If you like the topic of social engineering, you should definitely be in our Slack channel. We're close to 2,000 people in there now every day talking about all aspects of SE, from the psychology to pretexting. But one of the things I really love about it is there's a job board in there. So we've had, I think, about a dozen people find employment. Companies come in and will say they're hiring, and then people who are looking. So if you're in the InfoSec field and you're wanting to learn a little more or spread your knowledge, come on into the Slack channel. The link's in the show notes. Two rules, actually. Family friendly and legal. So if that sounds like you, you can join us in there. And I want to invite everyone to take a moment to go check out innocentlivesfoundation.org. The nonprofit there has been around for a little over 7 years now. Our mission is to geolocate people who traffic children and create child abuse material. And I'm so proud of the people over there. We're now over 535 cases that we've handed into law enforcement in these 7.5 years. And we just keep going. So it's a really great team over there. And our mission is something that's super important. So if you're interested in helping us out, we are a nonprofit. So if you want to go to innocentlivesfoundation.org, we can use your donations. Or if you're a parent and a caregiver and you're looking for information, how do I talk to my kids about these things? You can get information there on the website about that. And sadly, if you were ever a victim of one of these things, we have a wonderful doctor that comes in and writes articles on shame and trauma and how you can deal with those things. So there's a lot of information on the site. Go check it out. And I'm sure you'll find things that are interesting to you there. And if you, just like I was talking about the ILF, we have an amazing board over there. And one of our past board members is Neil Fallon. He helped me start the ILF. He is the lead singer of the band Clutch, which is the music that is opening and closing this podcast. So if you like them, go to clutchmerch.com, check them out, give them a shout out. We love those guys. And last but not least, if you like the episode here, give us a thumbs up, heart, like, whatever it is, and keep your comments coming in. Your suggestions for topics is what really keeps the podcast going. So we appreciate that. Thanks. Okay, let's get to why we're here, which is our guest, which is Stacey Edmonds. She's a multi-disciplinary EdTech innovator and digital safety pioneer driven by a commitment to democratizing knowledge. That's an interesting way of putting it. I like that. Stacey's expertise is encompassing social science, education, EdTech, and multi-platform screen production. Those don't seem like they all match, but we're going to find out. You'll find out Stacey's pretty eclectic. And it's culminating in the founding of the company Lively, which we're going to hear all about today on this podcast. In 2002, Stacey's been designing and delivering enterprise-wide cyber safety upskilling programs. And the one we're going to really focus on that she made in 2023 is called Dodgy or Not. It's a social enterprise offering an engaging approach to digital safety education. She continues to bridge the gap between emerging technologies and practical education, driving innovation in AI, ethics, and digital literacy. She is also known for deepfaking herself. Oh man, I tell you, that bio is just great. Stacey, thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, why, thank you, Chris. Lovely to see you again.
Yes, you too, as always. I know where you're at. It's real super bright and early in the morning. What time is it there now?
It is 7:20 a.m.
Ooh. See the dedication, team? See the dedication? She's here at 7:20 in the morning. So let's start off with some of the basic questions. This is one I always ask everyone on this episode is, how did you get to where you are today? Like doing what you're doing? How did that path emerge?
Well, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Where did I start? I started my career as a teacher, youth worker. So I studied applied social science and education. And then for years, I ended up doing... Sorry, I think I've got a bush turkey in the house.
Really?
No, seriously, just give me a tick.
Yeah, okay. A bush turkey. Literally the only things you'll hear in Australia. I don't even know if I want to take this out. I think this should just stay in the podcast.
It's okay. I got it. They're bush turkeys, the brush turkeys, and they're quite big. They're like, and they come in for the cat food.
So, ladies and gentlemen, these are the things you only hear when you're interviewing someone from Australia. 279 episodes, and you've never heard me say, "Excuse me, there's a turkey in my house. I must go for a second." Since 2009, Stacey, 2009.
We're good.
I've had guests on this show, and I've never had someone say, "Can I have a minute to go get the turkey out of my house?"
Oh, that's really funny.
Okay, wow.
Funny.
Where were we? Oh, you were telling us about your path to getting to where you are today, and you were a teacher, a youth worker.
I was a teacher, youth worker. I decided to come to Australia on a 1-year working holiday visa in 1999 and didn't go back. And my career then has moved into IT. I became very technical. I worked for Sun Microsystems and then a learning manager at the Commonwealth Bank. And it was then when I really started to look at storytelling in learning, and to move away from sort of that click and read digital learning concept. And then I made a feature film, did some...
Which is also, this is the funniest part of your career. Just, it doesn't match anything.
I just made a feature film. And then what happened? Oh, yes. I worked in a small organization where we really looked at storytelling and learning and using theater for learning. Mm-hmm. And then I set up my own business, Lively, a learning agency, and I was working with Transport for New South Wales, really the largest transport company in Australia. And I ended up, head of learning for Transport for New South Wales. We had a pole farm. That's a farm with the poles that you climb up and down, and we had hole digging. I had a $4 million train simulator downstairs. It was amazing. I totally took out. Do you know what? I thought driving a train would be really easy, but it's actually really hard. I totally took out Martin Place. That corner, the corner coming into Martin Place is a shocker. So did all of that and then ended up, Deloitte came to me and said, would you set up the inaugural Future of Learning practice at Deloitte? And that was an amazing opportunity. And since then have really combined the skills of digital, storytelling, and human behavior to create consumer grade learning experiences. So learning experiences that you would watch and go, yes, I would voluntarily buy and learn. So this is a podcast. It's a format that we are voluntarily learning from. Mm-hmm. So in organizations, why are we doing click and read when we can make some short, sharp podcasts with awesome people across the organization?
Yeah, I don't know, because I think I was reading a study about the ineffectiveness of CBTs, like how scientifically they've been proven to not work, right? To not work. And yet this is the thing that we see most organizations using for phishing, vishing, smishing, impersonation, ransomware, every other type of education. This is what they're using. So talk to me about Dodgy or not. What is it?
Oh, yes. Dodgy or not. I was just going to say, I remember working in an organization. I said, look, I've actually done this, Chris. I said, let's do a test. On one floor, we're just going to make posters of the key messages and we're going to put them in the toilets.
Okay.
Back of the door, above the urinal, we're good to go. For the other group, we'll do the traditional click and read. And in 3 weeks, we'll do and it was literally, just, I think it was how to use your telephone. And we'll do an assessment. It was the new VoIP telephone. And the toilet learning was 72.2% better.
Wow.
Than the click.
Hey, it's true. Like when they put signs or newspaper articles or menus above a urinal, I mean, it's genius. You got something to do while you're standing there.
It's repeatable. Yeah. So you've got a campaign, constant messaging. You're not doing anything else. Your brain is in a creative mode. Yeah. Top tip. Yeah.
So yes, so much better than sitting at a computer for 20 minutes clicking through something to just go and take a test multiple times until I can get done with it, right?
I know, seriously. I would really rather gnaw my own arm off.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So really, what happened was, for Dodgy or Not, I think it was 2015, 16. And really the cyber threats had really started to ramp up. I was working across a lot of organizations, but I'd been creating cyber awareness programs since 2002 at the Commonwealth Bank in Australia. And I could really see, and I was talking to the cyber team, and someone said to me, we need people to slow down. We need people to start thinking. I said, no, we need to speed people up. We need for people to, like you're going to cross the road, we need for people to cross into the road when it's safe. We need for people to have a digital instinct like we do in real life to keep ourselves safe. And a few years earlier, 2010, a few years earlier, I had been watching The Social Network. And I remember thinking, I don't need to know whether someone's hot or not. We don't need to know whether someone's hot or not. We need to know whether someone's dodgy or not. Hence, I think I'm funny. And that's where the name came from.
So it's not a word that we use here in America often.
No.
So give me the concept of, like, I know that's how it came about, but how, like, what is it?
What is it? What started as a game. So if you think cyber meets Tinder, dodgy or not, dodgy or not, dodgy, not, dodgy, not. And then what you do is when you go dodgy, you get instant feedback. And we're going for you, depending on the format, whether it's a text, a message, a vish, a smish, deep fake, virtual reality game, social media message. Really just the key dodgy tactics. There's emotional pressure. There's a sense of urgency. The URL is dodgy. It's too good to be true.
Yeah.
And so it really is, we're not taking everyone through this whole experience. It's don't step into the road. We don't need to know the pig butchering scam from go to woe. We don't need reams and reams of information. We need to know how not to step into the road. And so when I was at Transport for New South Wales, I designed it before, took it into Transport for New South Wales. And again, we did a test. So we had a group of people who did traditional learning, a group of people who did no learning, and a group of people who played dodgy or not. And then we did a phishing test. And what we found was the group of people who did no learning probably stayed around the same. I mean, the click-through rate at that point was around 29%. So not great.
No,
and
that's
then,
not great at all.
It's not great, is it?
No.
And then
that's
for the
high.
people who did the traditional learning, which is kind of, a 15, 20-minute click and read type.
Yep.
I remember the stats going from 29%, and for a short period of time, they went down to about 24, and then went back up to 32. The people who played the game, the click-through rates went down to 4%.
Wow.
In a 3-minute game.
And what was the time period for training? Like how long did they use the app before you took the test again? Like before you tested
1 month, 3 months. 1 month, 3 months.
Okay.
Yeah. And
wow.
And people went back to the game. So how many people go back to their click and read?
Yeah, I if I can avoid them, and here's the thing is I have some clients that we have to take like their training every year so they could say their vendors do security awareness training.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, they send you these things, right? And I'm also a professor at the University of Arizona, and every year I got to take their CBT training, and it's like the worst 30 minutes of my life, because it's like literally just,
sorry.
You just literally click, get to the end, guess the answers, you get it wrong, you go back, guess another one, get it, just till you pass. It's
I'm really sorry. I am a learning apologist.
Yes, because they're terrible, and the thing is, even the people who send them out know they're terrible, and they'll tell you, I'm really sorry you have to do this. And it's like, if you're sorry, then let's change it. Let's use something like this. Sounds amazing. Gamifying security awareness education has been proven to really, really work. People get engaged, get involved in it.
Well, here's the thing. I've always said this. So I've created learning in every subject area, data management, everything, leadership, management, everything. The thing about compliance and scams and fraud is it's a great subject, right?
Yeah.
It's personal and it's a great subject. And so what we do as well is we take all the real scams, they're all real.
Yeah.
And we put them in the game.
Yeah.
And then because we've got the daily dodgy, a bit like Wordle, so now we've got cyber meets Tinder.
I'm addicted to that game, by the way. I'm addicted to that game. Yeah.
So every day, and you get your streak. So what we're doing is we're using social engineering for good and not evil, which I know you're a big proponent on, because we do follow yes. And so that's what we do. So we have the game you can play. But what we're finding now with the daily dodgy, which actually came from our customers saying to us, we want to do this every day.
Really?
Yeah. We went, okay, we'll put a daily dodgy in. So we put in the daily dodgy, but 95% of people who play the daily dodgy then go on to play the game. Now, my hypothesis was that if you fail, you want to do a few more. And if you win, you're like, yes, I'm on a streak. I want to do a few more. And it actually seems to be playing out. What's interesting is it takes 2 seconds. Like it's dodgy or it's not.
Yeah.
And so it's working at the speed of life. You're not sitting there going through every of your email and every messages it's bang. You get your nudge. You're primed for the day just to ask one question. Because what I'm seeing as well is there's lots of information. There's reams of text online. There's so much good work has been done, but I feel like we're missing, and back to your point about the name, is we're missing a language. Scams, cybercrime, fraudsters. What is it that people are doing? But actually, if we distill it right down, we just need to start thinking and ask one question. Is it dodgy or not? Is it dodgy or not? Now, then if you do nothing, if you think, could be, don't do anything.
Right.
Don't do anything.
So this is something I talk about a lot when I work with companies or give speeches I hate when people say like, your employees are your biggest vulnerability, right? Because it's like blaming people for all the problems. I'd rather say we can make your people your strongest firewall, right? But one of the things I notice with a lot of people is a lack of critical thought when it comes to how to handle these things. They're too busy, they're tired, overworked, whatever it is, but they lack critical thought. So how does something like this help with the critical thought aspect of human decision making?
It really distills it down to really simple. Like, let's go back to the crossing the road. You walk up to the road, you hear a car. Just hearing the car lets you know that it's not safe to cross the road, which is also a bit awkward when we go to electric cars.
Yeah. I mean, that's also true, right? You don't hear them at all.
You don't hear them. I got a friend of mine almost got run over because she didn't hear the car.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, when we go to Melbourne, there's loads of trams and everything here. I get totally confused. It's very difficult to cross the road. It's like Crossy Road, and I have to start thinking about it. That's it. So what we're saying is, I'm looking at this. That's a dodgy URL. Is it dodgy or not? Just taking a pause. And this is true for fake news as well. So a study has been done with fake news. If people go, is this the right source? Just by doing that, it reduces the rate of sharing fake news by 75%.
Really?
Just take a pause. And to your point that we're all trying to do things really quickly. And that's why conscientious people move on these things quicker, because we're conscientiously trying to catch up. And that's why you'll get caught out on an ATO or a tax scam first thing in the morning when you're dropping your kids off at school, which happens.
Say the statistic again. What was the percentage?
75%.
Wow. That's phenomenal. Really?
They did I think it was Taiwan.
Huh.
That was during COVID. And I'll find the stats for you. That was during COVID. And they found that the spreading of fake news around COVID and everything, they had to catch it within an hour of social media and then respond with comedy. Now, this is where we're going back to dodgy or not is funny on purpose. So we're trying, so we're going from it's me, it's my fault, I've been scammed, I'm in it, I now feel ashamed, to I'm being targeted, I'm being deceived. This is social engineering. This is a tactic that is being used on me, which we're all vulnerable to.
Yeah.
And we're all vulnerable to that. I mean, our basic human nature is being used against us to live and trust and work in groups. Because if we don't trust anything or anyone, we're going to be little rocking people in a corner going slightly insane.
Yeah, that's not, I know it's not the answer. I always tell that to people too. It's just not the answer.
And so, to your point as well, we've taken out all of that language around humans being the weakest link. It's more, your humans are being threatened. So therefore, let's upgrade your humans, not just your technology.
Yeah.
So we need to reinstall, we need to upgrade our software to live in the life that we're living now, in the same way as when we got the cars and we needed to put in a seatbelt. We just need to and then how we put road rules in, and then we did a driving test, and we learned to drive in our new life.
Yeah.
So we do that, and dodgy or not. So I was in San Diego at the EdTech conference earlier this year, and we thought we'd try out the wording dodgy or not. And they were like, oh, and lots of people gave me lots of good feedback. But what was really interesting, in about 24 hours, I was known as the dodgy lady.
Not exactly the title you want. I mean, not exactly the title that you want, especially knowing that, we're trying to get people to not do things with dodgy.
So it was really funny. So what happened was we did then a conference with our client, the Australian Institute of Conveyancers, and then we made up some T-shirts, and it says dodgy right across the front and or not.
That's great.
And so this is it. It's we've got the dodgy dog, the dodgy mentorees, the dodgy squad, facilitators, the dodgy guard, a generative AI dodgy guard that we're building with the Trustworthy Digital Society, with USyd in UTS, so University of Sydney and Technology Universities in Sydney. And we're building the SCAM large language model, the SCLAM, really to turbocharge all of our dodgies or not, because what we do is we customize the game. So for all of our clients, we can bring in all of their dodgies and put them in the game. And so because the daily dodgy is happening, what we found with the Australian Institute of Conveyancers, they had a really, really dodgy one with a link, a HR that was coming from the CEO. And so what we did, within 24 hours, we had that in the game.
Yeah, that's smart, because I mean, we of course we don't have the same thing. What we do here is, like, if a client says that they got vished and we're doing vishing for them, we ask them, hey, do you have a recording, or do you have even a transcript? And then we will duplicate that to use what's being used against them in real time. So that way there are people. So your idea is really solid, because especially for those who maybe got the scam and then they see it in the training, like, ooh, I know this one, I saw this one, and it reinforces that it's dodgy. So that's I'd like that you do that. That's kind of cool. When it comes to like right now, the threat landscape, it changes. It seems like every 10 seconds. Like, we're just seeing, especially with AI out there now. So how does something like this help in real time threat detection? Because that is, when we think about that, I know a lot of companies go right to the technology side. Your IDS, IPS, firewalls, all that kind of stuff, which is needed. But how does something like this help with the real time threat detection?
That's a really interesting question, real-time threat detection. Now, there's two things we do from a real-time threat detection perspective. Number one, we source, our partner is NSB Cyber, and we source scam packs direct from the dark web for our clients before they hit our clients. So before they hit the market, let's just go $25, bargain.
Right.
from a real-time threat detection, it's a really interesting one. When we work with the CISOs in organizations and they go, oh, this is, we're seeing this happen. We can actually see this happen. Again, we can respond and work straight away. And then the idea with the scam large language model is that as we build that out and we have this resource of knowledge, because what we need to do is build what is and is not. That is the challenge, because it's like an arms race, isn't it? The better the technology get, the better the scammers get. And so the problem is that we're using generative AI in a safe, ethical, we need to make it safe. We don't want people having conversations there. We don't want young men having a conversation with a generative AI bot instead of Reddit about sextortion.
Right.
If the bot is not safe.
Yes.
So we need to build that safely. But the problem is that our fraudsters and everyone else, doesn't need to be safe. So they're able to leverage generative AI in a way that can use all of its functionality without, and it doesn't matter that it's not regulated. It doesn't matter that it's not safe. It doesn't matter that it is holding all the bias of the past or misinformation. It doesn't matter. And so we've got a whole criminal world being able to party on with this technology whilst everyone else is trying to find a safe use case. Yeah. And so what we're trying to do is build a safe use case at the same time the criminals are working 100 zillion times faster.
I agree. Yeah.
It's kind of like the Wild West, and the sheriff is definitely out of town.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a nice way of describing it. I've oftentimes talked with people about how like AI, we know it was there for years, but I mean, it's like it came out of nowhere all of a sudden, and it just seems to like grow a year every month, like another year old every month, right? And there's so little stop gaps and control mechanisms and like governors on it that it is a little scary. Like you can think back to like when they first launched that first AI, and it became a racist in 15 minutes, right? Because it was basically who was its trainer? White men. That's it. There was no diversity, right? There was no diversity. So it made logical sense that if you train it with only one thing, it's not going to be able to think. So I like your concept of training it, using it, making it safe. This is really, really important. I want to ask you, like, if you had to give one piece of advice to companies right now, okay, so not individuals, to companies listening to this podcast, and there were some action steps that you wanted to give them to enhance their education or their posture, or just what advice would you give companies today?
Your culture. Your culture is everything. I find it quite interesting. And to your point earlier is, when you're saying, I start a new organization, I need to do all of the learning. So all of that compliance learning. Now, cyber and cyber safety for a long time has been put in that compliance learning. Be safe, don't click on a link, don't harass someone. This is what harassment looks like. we behave ethically. The problem is that that learning seems to have been the cheapest, the click and read, the tick the box. Yeah. Having done the Australian Company Directors course and program, and I would really question now being a company director. If I was a company director right now, I'd be saying, let's look at the actual learning and the cultural shift and the rewards and recognition and the systemic culture that we have in our organization that's going to keep us ethical, that's going to keep us legal, and that's going to keep us safe. And actually, that is the underpinning behavior that's going to keep us running as a profitable company, and also ensures that we're not going to open ourselves to risk. And so what we did was, as part of that, and this is interesting, we've some organizations coming to us to play harassment or not. Bias or not, ethical or not. So we trademark.
You really can work that with anything, can't you?
Or not, fake news or not. Now, right early on, a friend of mine said, why is it that you've left corporate? I said, well, I want to go back to my youth work roots. We're a social enterprise. So our paying customers, we can create additions for vulnerable communities. Mm-hmm. And I said, so the tagline, you need a tagline in all startups. What is it? What's your big mission? I said, to save lives, livelihoods and democracy, one left swipe at a time.
That should be on a poster.
Viva la revolution. We need you. That's
okay,
what
before I get to my final questions, I want to ask if people want to know more about this or want to connect with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Oh, definitely LinkedIn. Okay. LinkedIn is my friend. I think the new term is slay. I didn't understand the assignment. Yes.
Yeah. I think I'm going to swipe left on that. That was dodgy. Okay. So.
Yes. Boom. Yes. Please do message me on LinkedIn. But
we'll put a link.
And I would challenge anyone. This is my challenge to anyone. When you finish, after listening to this podcast, if you don't go away from this podcast and something happens and you go, oh, is that dodgy or not? And so this is what we're after. It's the language of love. Mm. No, the language of cybercrime, the language of it to go.
Definitely the opposite of love.
Yes.
Yeah.
Dodgy or not? Is it dodgy or not?
So most of us, me included, I would not be sitting here today if it wasn't for maybe a handful of really special people that I can call my mentors. Different stages of life for different reasons. But when you think back through your career path to here, do you have any mentors that you stay in touch with now that you say, I would not be sitting here if it wasn't for this person?
Oh, so many, Chris. I did have a think. I think all my life, as you know, I've had many different careers that have all accumulated together into one. And what I'm finding at the moment is I have many mentors for the multi-disciplinary. So for startup, Carolyn Breeze at Scalare has been amazing in helping me on this journey. For social engineering and partnership, Chris, you have really helped, really drive Dodgy or Not and the underpinning theory around social engineering. For governance and risk and ethics, we have Janine Thompson, who's a partner at McGrath-Nicole, who does forensic accounting, and she's a private investigator.
That's cool.
I know. And then we have a marvelous man called Steve Rowe at SRA Technology, who's run his business for 30 years. And he has been our founder, assistant in residence, and really built a solid safe.
What was his name again?
Platform. Steve Rowe.
Steve Rowe.
And I
like to call these people out, in our show notes.
Amazing people. And I think really it's a case of, and one more.
Okay.
Shane runs NSB Cyber, the CEO of NSB Cyber. And he set up his NSB Cyber organizer a year ago. And he has been such a driver and a help and a support. And he invites me to the office. They have Yorkshire tea. There's some things that you really, that are important in life. And I think tea is one of them.
Well, that is very British of you.
There's so many people. And I think that's it. I think it takes, they say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a big town to raise a startup.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I love that too. Since 2009, when I started this podcast, we've been asking guests every time about books that they like to read. And it does not have to be anything about what we talked about. It can be just books that you love, because we make a list and it goes on our website. And I think we have hundreds and hundreds of books on there. People always ask, what do you like to read? We send them to that page. So do you have any books that you've fallen in love with over the years that you think everyone should take a chance to read?
Well, my motto in life comes from Susan Jeffers: feel the fear and do it anyway. Have you got that one on your list?
No. That's the name of the book?
Yes. Feel the fear. Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Okay. And Susan Jeffers, you said.
Amazing book. Another one of my favorites is, of course, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Come on. That's a That's a classic right there.
It's a classic. And of course, social engineering for the Ministry of Truth. We have 1984, which might as well just say 2024.
Yeah. We should just change the title.
Just change 2024.
Yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
And
George, did you know you were a prophet, George? Did you know that?
You know, brilliant. And for right now, a marvelous woman in Australia, Tracy Spicer, Man-Made. Amazing book, How the Bias of the Past is Being Built into the Future in AI. Journalist, comedy gold. And so if you really want to start into generative AI, deepfake, where, the build of AI and what does that mean, then Tracy Spicer is an amazing book.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, thank you for all those recommendations. Really amazing. And thank you for being on the show today. It's really great, as always.
I'm going to have to go and find my little turkey.
I'm telling you, this is the first in 272 episodes. And let me see. Let me do the count. Is this 14 years of podcasting? 14 years of podcasting, 272 episodes. Never had a guest that had to step away to get a turkey out of their home.
You are welcome anytime.
Thank you. I mean, you kind of need to spice it up a little, and sometimes getting that little special, I've never had that happen before. Usually does happen with you, Stacey. So I mean, it's the way it is, So anyhow, thanks for being on the show, and thank you all for joining us this month. Hopefully you enjoyed this as much as I did. Check back next month and we'll have another security professional with some more great advice. Till then, stay safe. See ya.